Welcome back, everyone. My people, it don't set like there is fire on the mountain. Aso Rock is panicking. Big diplomatic drama is brewing between Nigeria and United States. So, Senator Ted Cruz of Texas has accused Nigerian officials of ignoring and even facilitating the mass killings of Christians by Islamic jihadists. But Bayo Onanuga, Tinubu's spokesperson, is firing back with serious warning. So, according to Senator Cruz, he said that Nigeria government has failed to protect Christians from violent attacks carried out by extremist groups. In his exact words, he said, officials in Nigeria are ignoring and even facilitating the mass murder of Christians by Islamic jihadists. It is time to hold those responsible accountable. He added that his bill could impose powerful sanctions and other tools against Nigerian officials who, in his view, are complicit in religious persecution.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to bring attention to the tragedy Christians in Nigeria are experiencing. The deadly terrorist organization Boko Haram is trying to eliminate the Christian faith from Nigeria. This is the same terrorist group that kidnapped dozens of young schoolgirls and burned innocent civilians alive in cages. According to reports, over 3.5 million people have been forced to flee their homes. 3 churches are destroyed every single day. 7,000 Christians were massacred this year alone, and the faithful must now meet in secret or in burnt-out sanctuaries. Sadly, the world is turning a blind eye to the plight of Christians in Nigeria. There are no embedded journalists covering the violence. There are not daily updates. Politicians around the world are not asked questions about how they will respond. We cannot ignore this violence and tragic loss of life. We must speak out and shine a light on what's happening so that people can donate to relief efforts and provide support to those displaced by violence. To my brothers and sisters in Christ, we know you know the power of prayer. We will not forget you. Stay strong. Keep the faith.
So these remarks has sparked like outrage in Nigeria leadership. This is why I said that they are panicking, because Bayo Onanuga, Tinubu spokesperson, wasted no time in responding. So according to Bayo Onanuga, he dismissed Cruz's statement as misleading and harmful to Nigeria's image. He issued a serious warning cautioning the U.S. Senator against spreading what he described as dangerous propaganda that could damage diplomatic relationship between both nations. So Bayo Onanuga insists that Nigeria is committed to fighting terrorism and ensuring the safety of all its citizens, regardless of religion or ethnicity. He accused Cruz of playing politics with Nigeria's internal security challenges and warned that such statements could fuel unnecessary tension. And Nigerians are not left out. After Cruz released this particular statement, Nigerians trip in and start commenting. They even provided like names of Nigerian politicians that you were supposed to sanction. My people, this matter is really getting serious. So let's look at some of the reactions from Nigerians. So this person really provided like the names of politicians, like Nigeria politicians you are supposed to sanction. So this person said, names of irresponsible politicians you can start with. Number 1, Bola Tinubu, Kashim Shettima, Godwin Akpabio, Nyesom Wike, David Umahi. When you finish with these ones, I will bring more. Thank you. Chai. And this person said, ban their visas and that of their family members and seize their properties in US. And another person said, focus on the entire government. Cut them off from the U.S. marketplace. Declare official persons non-granta. Bomb the area where Boko Haram and other Muslim armies are located. And provide local Christian communities with arms and training. Hey! And another person said, thank you, Senator Cruz. Please help publish their names, revoke their visas, seize their properties anywhere in the West, and freeze their accounts as well as those of their family members, including their visas. Hold them accountable. And this person said, we need terrorism, banditry, and senseless loss of life in Nigeria to end. We really cannot continue like this. Those behind and sponsoring this mindless killing have to be named, shamed, and held accountable. The bloodshed is just too much. Enough is enough. And also, Nigerians are giving woto to Bayo Onanuga because of his reply to Cruz statement, saying that he lied, that he's supposed to be ashamed of himself, that Nigerians are dying every day by these terrorists and bandits, but Tinubu government choose to focus only on 2027 election instead of tackling the insecurity that disturbing Nigerians right now. My people, we are watching to see how all these things are going to end and to see whether indeed they're going to, sanction all these evil politicians. Anyway, make I allow you guys to watch this powerful interview from Peter for Nigeria and hear everything that he said here. This is indeed a very powerful and insightful interview because he reviewed a lot of things, especially, what is happening in Nigeria now and also 2027 and the electoral reform. Take a listen.
My, push to take up this case of Senator Natasha is the same, zeal about injustice, no matter who is involved. Injustice does not become justice when it happens to someone maybe you disagree with. Even if the current Senate president was an ordinary senator and another Senate president does the same thing, I will still speak up. Senator Natasha is one of just 4 women in the Senate. And then the Senate came up with, they said you disobeyed standing rules, and then they gave you a sentence of a suspension for 6 months. Your security withdrew from you. Your salaries allowances stopped. And we said, no, this cannot be the way to go. If a National Assembly wants to be a body of lawmakers, it should be able to uphold the laws for its own self. We have had instances in the Senate where a senator led thugs to steal the mace, the symbol of authority. And it was seen later at the city gate somewhere in Abuja. He was suspended, taken to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, no, you cannot suspend for more than 14 days. By the next year, 2019, he was voted in as Deputy Senate President. A current serving senator, a former governor, was convicted of money laundering to the tune of billions, sentenced to prison for about 6 months before he went to the Supreme Court. What did the standing orders of the Senate say about it? So it is not able to take care of known criminals amongst them. It is women who insist on standing for their rights. Let due process be followed. And when a court of competent jurisdiction says this is the way to go, the lawmaking body should not be the ones violating the rights or the Constitution. You cannot arrogate to yourself the powers of both executive, legislative, and judiciary. We must have the rule of law in a country, and that is why we insist that the people of Kogi should not be shortchanged. Senator Bayo is not more senator than Senator Natasha.
All right, right now, moving forward, are we looking at her being favored the way others have been favored? Because obviously we know that there are going to be challenges.
There will be,
Is there any plans in the event something goes awry?
Do you know what I have come to realize from this case of Senator Natasha? Democracy thrives when citizens participate. And we will continue to have criminality in government, illegality and injustice for as long as the people permit it. Once the people begin to mobilize and insist that the right thing should be done, the power of the people will always be greater than the criminals in power. So it does not matter the shenanigans that they would want to do. The persons who are in the Senate, there are about 108 of them plus 209, 360 lawmakers. How many are the politicians that will hold how many million people hostage? So beyond the case of Senator Natasha is an outright and flagrant, abuse of power. The National Assembly today has almost become an extension of the executive. It is like the APC town hall. When the president goes to submit a budget, they greet him with his political mantra, on their mandate they shall fall. That place is the People's Assembly. So when will the Senate leadership be also suspended for turning a house that should be apolitical to a political party stakeholder meeting? So beyond whatever it is that they will be planning for Senator Natasha, because it is even unfortunate that for 6 months, a country grappling with insecurity, bandits are holding press conferences in Katsina, the Senate has been bent or has been neck deep into political battles of perceived enemies. So whatever it is, if the Senate wants to remember itself as a 10th Senate that fought to push forward the welfare of Nigerians, or that wasted its time approving loans without investigation and clamping down on one woman, it is up to them to make that decision. But Nigerians will not allow that injustice to be sustained.
Right. How will you assess this 10th Assembly in the light of all that we have seen? Are they really doing the oversight function, or they are just serving themselves?
I think in Nigeria, one of the greatest tragedies is that there is no worst case scenario, because things are this bad does not mean it cannot become worse. In fact, we thought that the 9th Senate under Senator Ahmed Lawan was bad until we saw the 10th Senate. This current Senate is probably the most unproductive and probably useless to the Nigerian people. A Senate that has become an extension of the executive, where legislative leaders wait to get instruction from the presidency. What exactly has the Senate, in its 2 years going to 3 years of the 10th Senate, done meaningfully well to impact the lives of Nigerians? The economy. It is just approving of loans and loans without investigation for the presidency. And then you see National Assembly members, instead of taking the pains of carrying out oversight, they are more interested in political controversies and all sorts. So for me, I think that it is high time for Nigerians to drain the swamp, to ensure that whatever that it is, because we are spending a lot of money. The budget for the National Assembly is above 350 billion. So when you spend so much money on non-essentials, on something that is not productive to the people, we are the collateral for that level of mismanagement and recklessness. So I think it is shameful what the legislative arm of government has become, because that is the arm of government empowered to carry out oversight. And if it can become that, where is democracy headed? Where is the country headed? Nigerians must think about how to recalibrate ahead of 2027, because we have a lot of trouble in our hands if this is what we have as a legislative arm.
All right, you've been in the forefront of electoral reforms. I can even see it on your T-shirt. Fix INEC.
Fix INEC now.
How do you think we can fix INEC now?
It has to be an electoral revolution. Mr. Victor, it is simple. Nigeria, we have been living in self-deceit. We have been living a lie. We claim to be a democracy. This year we celebrated 26 years of uninterrupted democracy in our fourth republic, and we have just done 65 years of independence. The hallmark of every democracy are free, fair, credible, and peaceful elections. That is the foundation, because it is a social contract where the citizens choose their leaders, and when they are dissatisfied with their performance, they can vote them out. If you fail to fix elections, there is no point of accountability. So we go through a vicious cycle where people just continue to lament about bad leadership. They rig themselves back into power. They complete their 8 years. They rig another person who will become even worse. So if truly we want to be a democracy, it must be through free, fair, credible, and peaceful elections, because elections do not only bring government, they give legitimacy to governance. That is why it became very important that, look, INEC and the electoral process and the judiciary have become the weapon fashion against Nigeria. We must put a spotlight on it. Since 1999, the current president is the only president who has not come out to talk about electoral reforms and free and fair election, even though he prides himself as being one of the persons who fought for the June 12 MKO Abiola mandate, which was all about free and fair elections. 32 years later, Nigeria cannot boast of conducting credible elections. Even the late President Yaradua admitted that the elections that brought himself and the then Vice President Jonathan, he said they were flawed. We needed to improve on them. Unfortunately, he passed. But President Jonathan took it a step further to sign the 2011 Electoral Act, conducted the elections that were seemingly free and fair that brought President Buhari. Then the destruction of INEC and the judicial system began. And that is where we are today. And if we fail to fix it and they consolidate on what happened, the criminality we call elections of 2023, then we are done for as a country, because there is a template. The current ruling party has a pedigree. We have Lagos State to look at for the last 26 years. Nigerians must fix that system of accountability. Whoever that Nigerians chose, let it come as the mandate of the people. You cannot come through the window and claim to be sanitizing the house. No, the process of getting into power is more important than what you do with the power. That is why we are on this.
A lot of people have said that Nigerians have lost interest in INEC.
Yes.
INEC itself is also saying that Nigerians have not lost their confidence in them. That is about the individuals, it's not about INEC. How do you react to that?
I think it is unfortunate, because INEC should, the leadership of INEC should bury their heads in shame. The professor of INEC, the INEC chairman currently, his tenure will soon be finishing. In a normal society where there is a rule of law, the INEC chairman should be on a subject of investigation. And I say it with unequivocally. If you collect 300 and something billion to carry out one particular project, you said electronic technology will be the game changer. You needed about 150 billion and all of the position papers you did. Sir, on the day of delivering, you said the Senate result could pass through the server, but the presidential could not because there was a glitch. Sir, do we know what caused the glitch? Has INEC told us why we should not have further glitches moving forward? The politicians, have they come out to say, in the minimum, let us know why taxpayer money should be wasted in such a misadventure, and on the day of delivery, it fails? Until date, there is no conversation about electronic tech. In fact, the 2023 election has not even been reviewed by this current INEC chairman who is about to go. And when you say the people do not trust the process, INEC data for 2023, Total number of registered voters was about 93 million. Collected PVCs were about 87 million according to INEC. The total number of persons who voted in that election were less than 28 million people. Sir, why do more than 50 million people take the pain of registering, collecting PVC and are not interested? It's simple. Nigerians do not trust those processes or those activities we call elections. In the words of one of the African Union observation team that came in 2023, they say what we came to do was not election monitoring, it was a crime watch. Imagine leadership that comes from a process of criminality. How does the country move forward? And INEC is telling people that it's not about. So for us now, it is to plug the loopholes. If the judiciary had done what they needed to do, we will not be where we are. But unfortunately, the judiciary have decided to be a willing tool in the hands of the politicians. So we need to plug every loophole and ensure that there is less human interference no matter who is running the agency, and then mobilize to protect your vote. But I personally believe that what will change elections in Nigeria is an electoral revolution.
How do you respond to the fact that most of the people being appointed either as national commissioners, as Kakari members,
or political
those who have been appointed resident electoral commissioners are Kakari members? So how do you expect this change to happen?
I mean, it has to become a national conversation. The issues of election in Nigeria must be raised to the level of a national crisis, because failure to do so will just allow us to be at the mercies of the politicians in government and persons who they install there. The act is clear. The guidelines for INEC are clear about how to appoint persons. But of course, it's solely the prerogative of the president. Persons are saying that, oh, you may need to now amend the law so that it is not just the sole responsibility of the president, who will also be a participant or a contestant, picking the umpire. But then again, to what extent can we really control the interference of people? Even those who may not be card-carrying members, by the time they get in there, how do you control their own activities? That was why it became important that can technology insulate the process from human interference? And even when you raise all of these issues and say this person should not be a national commissioner, the person is a card-carrying member, what judiciary are you going to take the case to, sir? So Nigerians must wake up, because even now, the electoral reform, there is no political will from this 10th assembly to... If you pass electoral reform and do free and fair election, you are almost saying that 90% of the current politicians should retire and go out of office. So it will take a critical mass of Nigerians to wake up and insist that the right thing should be done, or else we continue in these irregularities.
If you are to ask to point one or two steps you think should be taken to achieve these electoral reforms, what will it be?
Occupy National Assembly. Nigerians must mobilize civil society, everybody who means well for Nigeria. As the Senate resumes and begins considerations, they will begin a public hearing and all of those calisthenics about trying to do this, because of course politicians will be politicians. If they give you reform A, they open a loophole by B, because you know you cannot have it all together. So everybody must, in Nigeria they will say men must mount. Nigerians must put maximum civic pressure to implement or express your right to peaceful assembly. Put the pressure you need, and then begin to look at the critical part of what part of the Constitution or the Electoral Act and the INEC guidelines, whatever that needs to be amended should be amended. And then, of course, there is the part of almost every case, every political contest in Nigeria ends up in the judiciary. Should the courts be choosing leaders for the people in a democracy? That is, we have shortchanged the will of the people. We can as well decide that the court should tell us who should be governors and senators. Let everyone go to bed. We have to fix this broken system, and it will take Nigerians waking up and realizing that our lives depend on the quality of elections and leaders we produce.
You talked about the judiciary. How would you assess the judiciary? Looking at 2023 elections going forward, how would you assess them?
In all honesty, I have said it severally that I do not believe Nigeria has a judiciary. The judiciary is an independent arm of a democratic government that is capable of dispensing justice for the state and not for statesmen. What Nigerian judiciary has proven to be is the legal department of any political party in power, where politicians and strongmen control whatever. You can see what is going on, where people become SAN through whatever means that they be. Spouses of politicians just move from High Court to the Appellate Court, then to the Supreme Court. Look at the case of Rivers State, for example. The president, that is a textbook definition of where Nigeria's democracy is. And a president in a democracy woke up and decided to suspend a legitimately elected governor. I'm not talking whether it is right or wrong, but before even the Senate that should ratify ratified, he had already sworn in a sole administrator. The National Assembly that should ratify with 2/3 majority decided to use a voice vote. Now, the voice vote was used to uphold the illegality that was done by the executive. PDP governors approached the court, and for 6 months, the Supreme Court was unable to entertain a suit to determine the legality of a process. until that 6 months expired and the governor came back in a so-called peace deal. So if you can see the tragedy of the three arms of government, you should know that Nigeria is in dire strait. Nigeria is in serious trouble. The judiciary that should be called the last hope of the common man has become the last hope of the uncommon man. When you see politicians in Nigeria today, we almost have a minister for the judiciary who is building houses for them, increasing their allowances and pampering the judges. A person who at the end of an electoral cycle will also be a defendant in their court. And we don't see it as clash of interest. We don't see it as administrative abnormalities. Everybody just goes in that way. So what is the hope of the Nigerian if we have that kind of judiciary? We are in serious trouble and we must fix it.
The president's speech, independence anniversary speech, the president said that economy is on the path of recovery.
Super story.
And then that we are making progress. What's your take?
That one is Tales by Moonlight. I think our pockets and Nigerians will be the ones to tell the stories. I think it is very shameful and it is disappointing that 65 years after independence, 15 years ago in 2010, when we did 50 years of independence, Professor Wole Soyinka is quoted on a magazine to say there is nothing to celebrate. In 2015, if you want to know exactly where President Tinubu and the current government, the mischief we have in leadership about the economy, the major campaign and one of the policy statements of President Tinubu was on May 29, 2023. Subsidy regime is gone. They pride themselves in removing the corrupt subsidy from fuel subsidy. And I asked the question, Mr. President, if you want to be honest with yourself, it is true that there was corruption in subsidy. But the question is, between May 29th and today, October 2025, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, how much have you saved exactly from fuel subsidy removal? Because subsidy in itself was not a problem. It is the criminality in subsidy. Subsidy is paid in different forms in different countries. What we call social securities are all subsidy. In fact, if you take out subsidy and you begin to increase money to governors without holding them accountable, you have only decentralized corruption. What you are telling us is that you have removed subsidy for the poor and are subsidizing the rich. So what is happening in Nigeria today is that we, the poor and average Nigerians, we are the subsidy for the wealthy, and you live in luxury. The president can come out and say he has turned the corner economically because, of course, his economy has improved. He bought a new presidential jet. He bought a presidential yacht. They budgeted money for SUVs for the office of the first lady. They are installing solar panel in the presidency for billions. They renovated the vice president's house for about 20-something billion. They released money to the Senate to buy bulletproof vehicles for more than 160 billion. So their own economy has improved. The question is, the man on the street, how do we have stable power to even power your own small and medium scale enterprise? What is the security to us? Today in Kano, in Kwara State, bandits are killing people. Kwara, that used to be one of the most peaceful. In Katsina, bandits are holding peace deals. We have security and insecurity officials. What I see is Nigeria being governed by political businessmen who see the citizens as customers for their trade. Nigerians must wake up and dismantle the structure of criminality. I take exception to that speech by the president. If President Tinubu is being honest, sir, can you have a policy statement from a British Prime Minister on something as important as fuel subsidy, and then you cannot account for exactly how much was saved from it? Let us say, okay, we saved 50 billion. Do you know what 50 billion can transform in the health sector? How much is ASU looking for? How much do we need to improve educational infrastructure for the out-of-school children, more than 18 million to return? So that we know that we stopped criminality in subsidy, we saved from this, and this is what we have been able to reinvest it, and with tangible results. Our trunk A roads and highways, more than 80% are not motorable. And you keep insisting that you removed corruption from fuel subsidy. Sir, you have diversified corruption. Please excuse us.
Then the issue of insecurity. He also said that we are winning the war against insecurity.
The president is winning, but I don't know in what ring or in what, platoon he's winning the war. After the statement of the president, do you know that yesterday there was an attack in Niger State with more than 30 persons kidnapped and a number of persons killed? The question about insecurity that politicians have not come out to say is, who exactly are beneficiaries of insecurity in Nigeria? Has insecurity become a multilateral or multinational economic investment where the more money you pour into it, the more it explodes? Remember that when President Jonathan was leaving office in the heat of the Boko Haram insurgency, this insecurity thing was majorly centered around the northeastern states, Adamawa, Yobe, Borno. President Buhari came, who was supposed to fight insecurity as a retired military general. Since the coming of APC, Nigerian army are in active service in the 36 states, including the FCT. We have more than 40,000 IDPs in Abuja, the country's capital. So when you begin to do peace deals, you do peace deals on Monday. On Tuesday, the same bandits attack a state like Zamfara to kidnap more people. And the bandits come out to tell you in public that these killings will not stop for as long as there is injustice against us in a country that has a commander-in-chief. And President Tinubu's statement under Jonathan, he said if Jonathan has failed on insecurity, he should resign. When will President Tinubu resign for killings and insecurity? The death of one person is much enough or is plenty enough. But it has become a norm. In today, we just compare statistics in Nigeria. Oh, now 10 people they killed. Oh, last time they killed 40. Recently, bandits attacked NYC Corps members in Kebbi State that I know of. The NYC Corps was asking them to contribute money for them to be brought out from the villages to the city in bringing Kebbi. A lot of them use their own transport money and have come back to Abuja and are seeking for redeployment. A lot of unreported stories going on around. But the president can sit at the comfort of the villa with a televised speech or a teleprompter and read whatever he wants to read. How safe are Nigerians today? It is up to all of us for how long this impunity and recklessness will continue.
If I'm to ask you, are we better off pre-2015 than we are today?
I think the answers and the everything speaks to itself. How much was a bag of rice in 2015 when Jonathan was handing over? How much was a liter of fuel? It is this same administration that protested against Jonathan removing oil fuel subsidy in Occupy Nigeria. Have you forgotten in 2012? What exactly when President Jonathan, as corrupt as they say his government was, he even had a plan. There was Shopee, there was UWin. I know people who benefited from UWin without knowing anybody in government. In that government that was seemingly corrupt. So what exactly are the incentives available to people today? 10 years after the Jonathan presidency and counting, we have become the world headquarters of extreme and multi-dimensional poverty. We are probably the third most terrorized nation in the world. So what are the economic indices? You are bringing taxes. Do you tax the people into prosperity? What is the prosperity and employment or productivity you have built before you want to take tax from them? All the taxes you have been collecting in Lagos State, 25 years later, how has the infrastructure of the state improved commensurate or vis-a-vis its IGR? We just take money for people to embezzle and to steal. Today in Nigeria, what can the minimum wage afford? How much, if even you employ a person and you pay the person 150,000 or 200,000, how much is a self-contained in Abuja? So Nigerians, the question is left for all of us to answer. How better off is our life?
And then, of course, some regional leaders said they were going to expose those politicians behind insecurity in Nigeria and, of course, within the sub-region.
Yes.
What's your take on that?
Sir, can you count how many times under the Buhari presidency, the presidency came out to tell Nigerians that they will expose the sponsors of terrorism in Nigeria? What happened? Why did no one hear of it again? Do you remember that there was an incident, an event in Taraba State where the former Minister for Defense in Nigeria, retired General T.Y. Danjuma, stood on the stage and said the military, they collude. They collude. You know, if an ordinary citizen makes that statement, the person will be called into questioning. Till today, was there any investigation into the statements made by the former Nigeria's Minister for Defense? It then means there is more that is not being said than is being said. So whatever it is that regional governments are going to do, because the insecurity as it is today, it affects almost everybody in the sub-region. The borders are so porous, they say people, you can cross from Niger to this and cross from this. And if we continue with that level of, irregularity and all of that, it will never end because there is no sincerity of purpose. So I do not even see the political will. If you have a situation where in 2018, or was it in 2019, remember when police officers from the IGP-IRT went to Taraba to arrest a kidnapped suspect. On their way, they were attacked by men of the Nigerian military who opened fire, killing about 3 officers and a civilian. And guess what? The kidnapper was able to escape. So if you have a situation where it has become so cold, you don't even know. The National Security Advisor of President Tinubu, Alhaji Nuhu Ribadu, he admitted in Plateau when he visited, he said most of the arms criminals are using to kill people in Plateau are arms that were stolen from government armory. Criminals are taking weapons from government and killing citizens, and we do not know how it happens. They say that law enforcement should stop selling arms to criminals. So there is a fingering of certain law enforcement officials, even in the insecurity. It has become an enterprise economically. You must untangle and unravel it. This current political class will not go anywhere. We will just continue to do this play and hide and seek. If they do in Plateau today, we go there, we send thoughts and prayers. The whole of Nigeria today needs thoughts and prayers.
Right, sometime, I think, if I can still remember, you were quoted as saying you vow that you ensure Akpabio is not re-elected in 2027. How do you intend to achieve this, and why do you feel paid by Akpabio's presidency of the Senate?
To be very clear, it was not a statement directed at just Senator Godswill Akpabio. I do not know him personally. I'm not from Akwa Ibom State. I'm not from his senatorial district, so I can't vote for him. It was a broad statement indicting his leadership. He has been a former governor, a former minister for Niger Delta Affairs, a former Senate minority leader. Today, he's Senate president. He has proven that he cannot use public office power for the good of the people. And if we fix an electoral process, I stated clearly that politicians like him would not be there. That is what we mean by having competent people in public office. Because remember that there is even a case of a professor who conducted elections that somebody is a beneficiary of, who was sentenced to prison, and the person who was a beneficiary of the election is seated in the upper chambers of the National Assembly. The Senate president contests the Senate primaries as a senatorial candidate while still contesting as the PDP or as the APC, a presidential aspirant in the APC. It is not about a person, it is about the Nigerian people. The people of Akwa Ibom, the people of Nigeria, everybody deserves good leadership. And if you are handed over the National Assembly and you can weaponize it against the Nigerian people, I think that you do not deserve public office. Nigeria will not have a situation where the worst rule over the rest instead of allowing the best to lead the rest. We have great minds, ingenious people, people of great character and competence. Once a system is fixed where people of such character can contest, we will not have charlatans in public office. But as long as you have characters who are mischievous, who do not have the national interest at heart, we will be the collateral. We are the victims. The Nigerian youth today, what is the future of a Nigerian youth? Everybody wants to japa, to do menial jobs in countries, jobs that you will not even do at home. Do you know how many Nigerians are dying in the Mediterranean Sea? People stuck in prisons in Libya and Mali, using every kind of precarious means to escape a country with so much resources due to the mismanagement of this crop of politicians. We must take a deep look and introspect and know that what exactly do we want as a people?
Looking at Nigeria and our leaders, who do you blame? Nigerians, the citizenry docility,
yes,
or the ineptitude of the leadership?
It's a combination of the two. I believe that the recklessness and impunity of the leaders are only permitted and will only fester for as long as the citizens condone it. And that is why I have continued to remain of the opinion that as Nigerians, we must move from the level of being just intelligent, talented, creative, and all of those, platitudes. They are all good. But we must now become a courageous people who are ready to stand up and fight for our rights and entrench what is called good leadership. Because the question we must ask ourselves is, sir, how many are the persons in government holding the entire country hostage? Let us calculate the entire political class. Give them, let's say, 40,000 people. As against how many million Nigerians? Because everybody, as fella go talk, I know one die, I know one quench, papa dey for house, mama dey for. We always get reason to fear. We are afraid of what should be afraid of us. Until the power of the people or the people in power become afraid of the power of the people, the country cannot move forward. Nigerians have decided to permit criminality in governance, and that is why what we receive is abundance of criminality. So Nigeria today is like an organized criminal enterprise. Every office and facet of government is there to support corruption at every level. We can't continue like that. Go to prisons. Look at people who are languishing in prisons for some offenses they may know nothing about or trivial offenses. When a governor will be confirmed by the EFCC to have embezzled money and paid school fee for children in advance, is moving freely. It's even in the ruling party. And that is the country where you are calling a country. Nigerians must wake up and ask ourselves the question, for how long are we ready to tolerate this? And what exactly needs to happen to motivate everybody to wake up and say, enough. Enough. I don't believe that it is impossible. It is up to Nigerians to wake up and realize that the power is with the people. You have the number and the strength. Wake up and take back your country and rescue it. One person will wake up and drive a Rolls Royce when they ask you, say that because your father was a GM of a company when he was...
Looking at Nigeria vis-a-vis international relations, what is the state of international relations with Nigeria currently?
Do you know that it is unfortunate that Nigeria as a country is begging to have a place in the Committee of Nations on the global stage? Nigeria has the capacity to be a world power. The level of resources in Nigeria, if you take away all our oil, the human beings in Nigeria are the greatest asset that we have. It is unfortunate that bad leadership has reduced Nigeria to where it is today. And unfortunately or incidentally, you are only a global player to the extent of the quality of service or whatever that can be gotten from you. Yes, we have the market, a country of over 200 million people approximately. What are we taking to the global stage? Even the crude that we drill from our ground, we can't refine it until one person brought a refinery for us. So anybody that is talking to you, the world as it is today in international relations, it is based on national interest. If America is coming to you, it is how it promotes or protects their own national security and promotes their personal interest. That is why today the president has continually visited France and France. They signed a memorandum. Nigerians need to know exactly what are in those memorandums, because we know that recently few francophone countries have parted ways with France. Is it possible that you are now looking for another means of exploitation? So for as long as you do not set your house in order, it is not the same way that the G7 group will relate with the South African government that they will relate with the Nigerian government. How many is the South African population as compared to Nigeria? Because with all your population, you have not turned it to a productive... The Ukraine, in the middle of a war, has been sending grains to African countries. Nigeria, without any war of an external force, cannot feed itself. Look at land in Taraba. When some politicians thought, they will say, no, the statistics will go chop. But look at Niger State, as big as it is. Flood killed more than 800 people. Everything ravaged. The land is just wasted. It has rather been overtaken by terrorists and bandits. How big is the land of Israel? That is a global superpower. The people that are dying in Nigeria daily, how many are there? But everybody is focused on Ukraine and Israel because they are strategic. They have more strategic importance to us. If it's do you know how many people are being killed in Sudan and South Sudan? As recently as even last week, a war of more than 2 years. It started shortly after Ukraine. Who is covering it? Because what are you bringing to the table? Africa must introspect, not go to hunger and be begging to be on the Security Council. Did the security of those countries improve because they were on the UN Security Council? No, it is because they had built their own security and economy. So it gave them the leverage to speak with pride. You see a Nigerian president. Imagine, even as recently as when Obasanjo was here, we still had some reputation in the global stage. Today, you see a picture of the president, he's even hiding behind other heads of states, the Nigerian leader. This is a shame of a nation.
Let's come back home. The FCT. How would you assess the FCT minister and his administration at the nation's capital?
Well, you see the minister, I see him, it's almost like, they are almost like three arms of government in Nigeria. I think they are almost like an arm of the government, because even Independence Day, I don't live in Abuja. I only come for, events, and I go back to, I see posters everywhere of congratulations on Independence Day to the minister. So I can imagine the level of power and, influence that a person would wield. If you look at, you will see projects going on and, all of that. My question is not always about projects. Leadership is not in building roads. Dictators build roads. It is not in coastal highway. What is the quality of life of a human being in a country? What is the human capital development? And even the so-called projects that you are doing, what is the transparency and accountability? At what cost and at whose cost? Who scrutinizes the budget of the FCT administration? We just go there. You are close to the National Assembly. It can be anything can be approved. What is the bidding process? How is it open for ordinary Nigerians who may have the capacity to deliver to also vie for these contracts and execute them? So anytime people talk about we focus on the central government, imagine us saying, okay, we want to hold governors accountable because the president said we have increased allocation to them. What agencies control grants in Nigeria? Because we have refused to have a true federation or have a what do they call it, restructuring. Everything is centralized in the center. It is the EFCC. How many high-profile Nigerians have the EFCC prosecuted to a reasonable conclusion? It is Yahoo boys. You go sting operation, you jump inside hotel, break in the middle of the night. A governor, you admitted that he's carried money so he pays school fee of children in advance. Where is he? The day they went to go and arrest that governor in his house in Abuja here, securities attached to the governor shot in the air, forcing EFCC officials to withdraw. So you will now tell us we have given governors money, go and hold them accountable. Where is the means of holding them accountable? What governor controls any arm of law enforcement agency? In fact, even the suspension of the Rivers State governor is ridiculous when you say that because there was insecurity and unrest, the president should be suspended. You are the one who is the one in charge of security. If there's insecurity in Rivers State, the president should be held responsible. What arm of the law enforcement does the governor control? Why is there no state of emergency in Borno? Why is there no state of emergency? Go and do it in one state in the north where killings are daily basis. So if you look at across board, it is a tale of rascality, recklessness, cavalier in their own impunity. It is like a country being governed by unarmed robbers, people taking from you and robbing it to your faces. So So anybody can become, you can see the cover of the FCT minister. If you ask a question and say, how much exactly is budgeted for your logistics and your movement, it will become a problem. You will be the one who is the problem. But under due process and a rule of law, should we not know what is being spent on servicing the lives of politicians?
You are a youth advocate, and some of these youth have been accused of also looking up to the politicians we criticize as their mentors. How do you intend to change their mentality to embrace issues from the perspective of a better Nigeria?
It will be an unfair characterization. They are not in the majority. What exactly has the generation ahead of us bequeathed to us? What did we meet on ground? There are people like my own late father and persons in that age group who will tell you that they went to school with government scholarship even as at their time. That public schools were the pride of the country as at that time. What exactly did we meet on ground? What is there for you as a young Nigerian to be patriotic about? You are your own government. You provide your own security. The number of people, more than 18 million children are out of school in Nigeria, an entire generation. So when you see young people struggling for survival, it is up to people to do what they want to do to survive. What we are saying is that if there is a system where people should be able to hold government accountable, it should be credible and it should be made efficient. Nigerian youths came out in 2023 and in 2020 to protest against a government or police brutality. What was the response of the government? A group of young citizens unarmed, seated on the floor, waving their country's flag at the toll gates in Lagos, were met with live arms from the same government they were protesting. So what do you expect such a people to do? You have stifled the entire, it is like you are caged in your own country. You want to do business, what is supporting you? Where is access to credit? Where is power? Where is security? So a lot of persons have completely become disenfranchised. In fact, when you are talking to a lot of youths, they will tell you, see, Peter, this thing can never work. So you cannot blame people like that. And then we came out in 2023, people wanted to find another part to say, maybe let them rally around a candidate. INEC came out and told you that there was a glitch. So there is a deliberate attempt at subjugating these people. What I always tell Nigerian youths is, you cannot afford to be hopeless, because you can still become a victim of a system you choose not to pay attention to. Because it was bad does not mean it cannot become worse. For as long as we are alive, we must find the courage to fixing this system. Bad governance does not exist in a vacuum. We are the collateral for bad governance. There are certain persons who will be alive today but for the government that we have. And people will tell you it is not even made better by religious houses and leaders. It is God's will. We pray, we thank God, and we move on. Meanwhile, the same religious leader is protected by armed law enforcement officers. So it is not about youth not being interested. It is about a system that is stacked against them completely. Look at the entertainment industry where youth have been thriving. They took it from something that was almost obscure and not existent. Today, you want to even begin to tax people who built something out of nothing. So across board, it is like you are moving against firewalls. But I beg Nigerian youths and Nigerians, you cannot afford to be quiet and begin to give up, because that is what they want, so that we become a totally captured people. The more frustrated and disappointed you are, the better for politicians. They have a field day. Nobody's talking to them. Before you know, their children who are flying around become the leaders over you again. We must wake up and fix it. We can do it.
In the light of all you've seen and all you've said, do you think that President Tinubu can be beaten in 2027?
Mr. Victor, with due respect to you, sir, if there are free, fair, and credible elections conducted in Nigeria, before 12 o'clock on election day, the defeat of Tinubu and his APC minions will be announced. APC does not like me saying this statement. They will go to a comment section on social media and abuse it, but I am insisting and saying it. If the president is very confident in his popularity, do free and fair election. You have been de facto governor of Lagos for the more than 20 years or 26 years and counting. Influence, popularity should be influence. If you are the leader, you are the Jagaban of Lagos. Do you know that in 2023, people were physically beaten out of polling units in Lagos for looking like a certain tribe? Who is afraid of what? Why is President Tinubu not committing to free and fair elections? The only hope and confidence is in a compromised judiciary and a compromised INEC. What happened? What were the numbers? President Tinubu is the only person who won presidency by losing all major voting blocks. He lost his home state of Lagos. He lost Kano. What happened in Rivers? Let us be honest to ourselves. We know what is. When people come out to boast and say this person cannot be beaten, it cannot be beaten through what? Through free and fair or through rigging. Let us make it clear. Let us make the statement to the end. He cannot lose. He cannot lose through what? Who they vote for him? Where are they? I beg you. Nigerians must put pressure on INEC. It is INEC that is the weapon fashion against you. Leave all this talk of grandstanding and do free and fair election. Then we know who popular. Shebi, you stood for Abiola, you believe in the MKO mandate. It was about free and fair election now. So now that you even honored his wife and gave her title of CFR and all of, so meaning you believed in democracy. So why do you Democrats not believe in free and fair election? Or Nigeria is the only democracy that is not ruled by Democrats? This is mischief of the highest level. Once you see a group of leaders like that, the citizens must wake up and insist. Let us pick our leaders. 2027, mount your guard and protect your votes.
Calls for former President Goodluck Jonathan to run in 2027. What is your take? And why that with the coalition? Do you also think that the coalition are building strongly to challenge the APC?
Sir, my first question will be, why do we need a coalition? The answer is simple. Because they do not believe that INEC will do the right thing. So because of that, every political circle, we need politicians who are disgruntled to come together and overwhelm the system, like they did in 2014 that brought the Buhari. So when you begin to coalesce and recoalesce, we become the coalition capital of the world. So imagine a leader emerging from a coalition. Let's say, for example, maybe a Peter Obi or any other politician. And then you come and say, look, I want to sanitize corruption in the oil sector. And then you look back at the coalition and see the power players in that oil sector. When you go against them and they are disgruntled, what happens? They pull the rug off your feet and they recoalesce. There will be no substitute for people, the citizens, giving a direct mandate to their leader, where the leader becomes beholden to the people and not to a bunch of political actors who only took power for the sake of power. That is what it is. A coalition that led us to where we are today, that brought the Buhari catastrophe, which was the mistake that should never have been made. So Nigerian politicians, it is important, anybody who we are paying attention to coalition and opposition, but we must elect leaders on the basis of their characters, competence, and track record in public office. Have you been able to use public office for public good? Are you financially prudent? Are you not a thief? You cannot be sitting on pension as a former state governor, still taking from federal, and all of those kind of malfeasance, and you want to still push yourself down the throat of Nigerians because the people have decided to be lethargic, to believe that we can't do anything. I do not, look, there is no substitute for free and fair elections. Let a direct mandate. Look at President Donald Trump, for example. Probably the most powerful person in the world. He came in January 2020. Less than 6 or 8 months, he's in a hurry to begin to fulfill all his promises. Immigration, cracking down, ending the war in Gaza, Ukraine. You know why? The US does not even give you 4 years. In 2 years' time, by 2026, they have what they call midterm elections. Either the House or the Senate can flip to another party. It makes things difficult for him in the White House. So the man is trying to implement it so that he has something to campaign. That is where leaders know that power will come from the people. In Nigeria, there is no way you will know that a people need to vote for you. You will go on a vacation when more than 100 people in your country were killed and you are on a vacation in Europe. It is because you know that there is an INEC you can rig. There is no explanation to it. You cannot treat people with disdain as though you are an emperor or a monarch, like you are doing us a favor, and you begin to boast in it and grandstand. Let politicians in opposition do what they need to do. Even the coalition, if they know the right thing to do, they know what to do. They know candidates who have national spread, who have the goodwill of the people, who have the character, and above all, who also reflect the will of the young persons in this country who are yearning for a change. They should not allow that opportunity to be bungled.
So who are you supporting? All of these that you have analyzed? An Atiku, a Jonathan, or who?
Shall I be honest with you? My loyalty is to Nigeria. I am voting for a better Nigeria. In that better Nigeria, I will look at the crop of politicians. Who is the person who has a track record of using public office for public good? Who is a person who is going to ensure that the young people of the country are empowered in such a way that their potentials are unleashed? Who is a person that has a track record of keeping to their words and their word being their bond? And above all, maybe a person who can move this country from consumption to production. So we should understand these qualities and the capacities that these persons bring. Nobody is a saint, but are you a thief? If you are a thief, we cannot vote for you. I am loyal to Nigerian principles, not to a person. And anybody, you can also run for president. Who knows? 2027, anybody can run and then other people will come out. But we continue to watch the arena.
The civic space is being shrunk by the day. Journalists are being harassed.
Yeah.
Showere is facing invitation.
Multiple court cases.
Come tomorrow. How do we address these issues and how did we get here? Showere, invitation.
Court here and there.
What's that take?
Every democracy has a free press. And if journalists and the press or media being the fourth estate of the realm cannot be guaranteed their unfettered access or environment to express and do the job that they ought to do, then we have a problem, because the people are as informed as the information that they get and whatever, how this group of persons are able to hold government accountable. Once everybody keeps quiet and begin to cow, then we have become an authoritarian state. So what I would want to tell Nigerians is that every Nigerian, people become soft target when there are only few people speaking. When Nigerians, the millions of us who are on social media, everybody in Nigeria should be an activist at this point. If the problems in Nigeria have not activated you, is it until you are killed or somebody you know is killed? So when imagine 1 million people on Twitter waking up every day to amplify what one activist has been saying, we need fuel supply, we need this, we need that. What happens or what becomes of it? There will be no prison for you to even put everybody. But when everybody cows and allows one set of people to be at the top, they become soft targets. So we must continue. While conventional media is being attacked, people must wake up and speak for them, and those people should not be lone voices. All Nigerians must know that these things affect you. One bad thing attribute about us is trying to make issues about certain persons and how it does not concern us until you become a direct victim. What will happen with Senator Natasha will be a litmus test for what will happen to someone else. What will happen with Showere will be a litmus test. So it always seems far until it comes very close. Do not wait for that point. Injustice to one person means nobody's right somewhere is protected.
And of course, lastly, on Monday, we heard the news of the death of Arise News anchor and reporter Tochukwu Maduagu during an robbery incident in her house. How did you receive that news, and what's their reaction to incidents like that?
Let me just begin by sending my condolences, my very heartfelt condolences. Somto is someone, I don't know her personally, but I watch them, and you know how the screen makes a big personality of a person, and you just admire them by them just doing what they do. And she was good at it, even from the testimonies from her colleagues and all of that. And I pray that her soul finds rest and God comforts those who are mourning her very close family. It is unfortunate that we are where we are today, because listening to the commentary, there was also an aspect that she was taken to the hospital and there was an issue with the treatment, forcing even the former Senate President Bukola Saraki to come out and reinforce a bill that they had passed, stating that gunshot victims should be treated without. Nigeria is waiting for the next victim. We are a collection of potential victims. What we are doing is waiting for turn by turn Nigerian PLC. My prayer is that all that is going on mobilize these Nigerians enough to wake up and say, if you do not fix government and these institutions to work efficiently, anybody can become the next victim. Remember when there was a case of an attack on the Abuja-Kaduna train some years ago? There was a doctor there. She had already finalized her arrangement to travel out of the country. She was shot. She posted online. Some persons were even making a mockery of her. Incidentally, she died. I think Dr. Chinelo. That is what Nigeria is. When people talk about these things, it's not because you hate the country. It is because we want systems to work. Is it possible that even after the gunshot, she could still have survived if there was immediate care? In some instances, there may not be ambulance. There may be ambulance. There is no fuel. You may get there. Even if they want to treat, there is no oxygen. It is a whole lot of dysfunctionality. And it is unfortunate. But I hope that all of these tragedies inspire Nigerians to know that we need to put value on our lives. This is not a 29-year-old promising with a career as bright as anything as the stars, but cut short, not made better by the dysfunctionality in government. We have to fix this thing. It is not working. All of us must wake up and dismantle this structure of criminality.